It can be very scary when you start to identify your emotions. Get somebody else to do it. Child, it was a mess. Welcome and welcome back to Tiesha Talk. I'm Tiesha, a human services professional of 14 years and a mental health counselor. This channel is all about emotional regulation, personal growth, mental wellness, all of that good stuff to support you in your personal growth journey. This video is about 5 ways to respond to your emotions. Listen, in my teens and 20s, I was out of control. I'm not even gonna hold you. I could not control my emotions. I just thought, well, maybe I'm just a person that just can't control themselves. Because I'm trying to not respond in these ways that are hurtful to my relationship and myself, but it just doesn't seem to be working. I started to learn about emotional regulation strategies. And of course, as I was completing my schooling, I learned different ways and different strategies to be able to maintain and manage my emotions. While we can't control what we feel, we can always control how we respond to our emotions. In this video, we're going to talk about 5 of those strategies. The 5 strategies I'm going to talk about are based on a research-based process model, meaning it focuses on the steps you take after an emotional response has triggered. Now, I really like this model because we never know when we're going to be triggered. Sometimes we may be able to prevent an emotional response, but more than likely we are put in situations where we just don't know if it's going to go left or not. So I really like this model because it gives you options. I'll link the article below because I'm really big on evidence-based stuff. These strategies have been researched and tested, and we now know that these strategies help us respond to our emotions in a more healthy way. The first strategy is called situation selection. Picking and choosing where you go, who you're around, what you expose yourself to. A lot of things come into play. It's easy to say, well, just don't go around the person. Well, what if you have to work with the person? What if you have to be around the person? What if the person is a close family member? Situation selection involves thinking about who, what, when, why, and where, and understanding the possible consequences or the risks that you're taking. You are essentially weighing the pros and cons of exposing yourself to a particular person, place, or thing, and you are weighing its emotional impact, whether it be a negative emotion or a positive emotion. Either way, it involves you thinking and really understanding yourself. For example, if you have an ex and you know where they work at, situation selection would say, I'm really going to think about, do I really need to go into this store? Or if you have mutual friends, think about who's going to be at this party. How am I going to react? We don't control our emotions. We control our responses. So it really takes a person who has knowledge of self and who really pays attention to the cues and pays attention to their emotional responses to be able to use something like this. Me at 39 years old.
Damn.
Don't do me. Don't do me. What's up to all my millennials? At 39 years old, it will probably be easy for me to use situation selection because I'm just not gonna come around because I've had a lot of practice. I have professional training. But for someone younger or someone still developing these skills, it's gonna be hard. In our culture, what do we say? Oh, I ain't never scared. I don't want them to think I'm bothered. We have to consider some of these cultural expectations when we are talking about these choices. But this will be the first choice, situation selection. There are 2 types of situation selection choices, confrontation and avoidance. Now, some of us might say, confrontation. If you have a negative connotation of confrontation, hear me out. Sometimes confrontation just means putting yourself in a situation to manage your emotional response. Some people who are afraid of public speaking, they practice public speaking. So when the actual day comes, the emotional impact is decreased and they're not all anxious and nervous. That is what we call confrontation. You're actually getting in there, confronting what the emotional impact might be so you can better manage it. Another example of confrontation would be asking a person, let's say something happened at work and you notice there's a lot of tension, actually taking the person to the side and saying, hey, I noticed there's something going on between us. Maybe you're upset about something. Can we schedule a time that we can talk about it? That is definitely called confrontation. Now, in those senses, it's not a negative thing. Now, if you grew up in a home where confrontation means I'm pulling up on you and I'm about to ask you what's the problem, Depending on your conflict management style or your conflict management skills, you might see confrontation as a negative thing, but it's definitely not a negative thing. Sometimes we use this as a strategy to manage our emotions. So, still on number one, situation selection. And one type of situation selection is confrontation. The second type of situation selection is avoidance. Don't get avoidance mixed up with suppression. Avoidance might be avoiding the situation, person, place, or thing for safety purposes, for emotional purposes. If you know you just absolutely cannot control yourself, or you know it's a major trigger for you, maybe you will avoid that situation for a short period of time. And then think about how you can later deal with whatever issues at hand. Suppression would be denying an emotion, pretending like nothing is wrong, or denying a particular feeling that you get triggered by a situation. Avoidance can definitely be a helpful tool because some situations you just need to get out of there. It's nothing to talk about. A large part of emotion regulation is your development and your maturity. So I challenge you to think about when you're in those highly emotional situations, think about the consequences of the choice. Yep, you're right. So we're finished with number one, situation selection. That is picking and choosing who, what, when, why, and where you go to manage the emotional impact. Two types of situation selection strategies are confrontation, which is not always a bad thing, and avoidance. Let's go to number two. Strategy number two is situation modification. That just means getting in there and solving the problem, changing the situation. An example would be you go into the office, the printer is broke, you look and see that there's a piece missing or it's out of ink. I shouldn't use that one. Do we even use those type of print? Do we even print things out anymore? Okay, let me use another example. Fix it. You are committed to problem solving. You are modifying the situation to manage your emotional impact. There are three types of situation modification strategies. The first type of situation modification strategy is called direct modification, meaning you get in there yourself to fix it. Now, this takes some level of confidence, some level of skill. We learned this as a child throughout our adolescence. And this is why social skills are important, because these are some of the skills we learned as we grow up. We encounter problems, we have relationship issues, and we learn to kind of stop and think and figure out, can I do something about this? And where this might be an issue is if you are a person who is not confident or was not provided a space to solve problems, just to get in there and feel uncomfortable, as an adult, it might be scary for you. You might feel helpless. You might say, well, I can't do anything about any problem I have. And that is probably where you might run into some issues. So direct situation modification is just when you say, okay, how can I fix this? What can I do? Can I fix this problem between myself and my group members? It's you getting in there, problem solving. The second type of situation modification strategy is help seeking, asking for help. Now, sounds super easy, right? But culturally, sometimes asking for help can be the hardest thing. Get somebody else to do it. There could be so many things going in your head. What if they're judging me? What if I have to tell them my business? I don't want to have to tell them why I need the help. What if this means that I'm a failure? There's a lot of things that might prevent people from asking for help. Research shows that being able to ask for help is directly connected to mental wellness. Imagine going through a problem and just thinking, I cannot ask for help. I would rather suffer through. And this happens every day to people. So that is one strategy, asking for help and figuring out why you might struggle with asking for help. The last situation modification strategy is conflict resolution. Now, this is a skill we learn as we developed from children to adults. Depending on the environment you were raised in, what was modeled for you, your conflict resolution style may be helpful or unhelpful. Conflict resolution is a skill and you have to practice at it. Sometimes it's not about a win, it's about how much you are willing to compromise. Conflict resolution helps you figure out what's most important. Is it more important to win, or is it more important for you to get something you want? The second strategy is situation modification. There are three types of situation modification. Direct modification, that means you're getting in there solving the problem yourself. Asking for help, that's self-explanatory. And conflict resolution, Look out for part 2, where we finish the 3 remaining emotional regulation strategies.